Have you ever wondered if someone out there thinks exactly like you? Maybe you've caught yourself assuming your opinions are common, that your feelings are normal, that your way of seeing the world is shared by everyone around you. But what if that's not true? What if the very thing we call normal thinking is just our mind's illusion, a mirror that reflects only ourselves? This film explores one of the most fascinating questions in psychology. Does anybody think like me? Human beings are social creatures, wired to connect, to belong, to compare. Deep within us lies a quiet assumption that our own way of thinking is typical. Psychologists call this the false consensus effect, first described by Lee Ross and his colleagues in 1977. Their studies showed that people consistently overestimate how much others share their beliefs, values, and habits. If you believe something is obviously right, you might think only a fool would disagree. This is not arrogance. It's how the brain saves effort. It's easier to believe that the world agrees with us than to imagine countless different minds, each thinking differently. But what happens when we discover that others don't see things our way? To understand that, we need to look at the deep social forces that shape thought itself. In the 1950s, psychologist Solomon Asch conducted a series of famous experiments that revealed just how far people will go to fit in. Participants were asked to match the length of a line to one of three comparison lines. A simple task with an obvious answer. Yet when everyone else in the group deliberately gave the wrong answer, most people conformed and did the same. Even when their eyes told them the truth, social pressure made them doubt themselves. Asch's experiments were shocking at the time, showing that the need to belong can overpower even our sense of reality. Why do we do this? Why do we project our views onto others and follow the crowd even when we know better? One answer came from Leon Festinger, who introduced social comparison theory in 1954. Festinger proposed that we evaluate ourselves by comparing to others. We look to our peers for cues about what is right, desirable, or acceptable. If everyone laughs at a joke, we assume it's funny. If no one speaks up, we stay silent too. This habit helps us stay socially connected, but it also means our thoughts are rarely just our own. They are constantly shaped by the people around us. To know whether anyone thinks like us, we also need to understand how we imagine other people's minds in the first place. Psychologists call this the theory of mind. The ability to recognize that others have their own beliefs, desires, and perspectives. In 1978, David Premack and Guy Woodruff asked a provocative question: does the chimpanzee have a theory of mind? Their research sparked decades of study into how humans and animals understand others. Later, British psychologist Simon Baron-Cohen expanded this work, showing that children with autism often struggle to infer what others believe or feel, revealing how essential this ability is to social life. Without theory of mind, we live in a kind of mental isolation, unable to grasp that another person might think differently from us. As we grow, we don't just read other minds, we start to share them. Developmental psychologist Michael Tomasello and his colleagues introduced the idea of shared intentionality, the uniquely human ability to align goals and attention with others. From toddlers pointing to share interests, to adults building cities and cultures, humans synchronize their thoughts and actions in extraordinary ways. Shared intentionality explains how cooperation, language, and teaching became possible. It's the invisible thread that lets us say, we are in this together. When we coordinate with others, we don't just act alike, we start to think alike. But shared thinking has a darker side too. When our desire for harmony overrides our willingness to disagree, we fall into what psychologist Irving Janis called groupthink. Janis coined the term after analyzing major political disasters like the Bay of Pigs invasion. He found that intelligent, well-intentioned groups sometimes make terrible decisions because members suppress doubts and alternative viewpoints to preserve unity. In such moments, the illusion of everyone thinking alike becomes dangerous. It blinds us to error. It replaces truth with comfort. This illusion doesn't exist only in politics. It shapes workplaces, friendships, even families. We sometimes mistake agreement for understanding and silence for consent. We assume others think as we do, and that assumption can fracture relationships when the truth finally surfaces. Interestingly, neuroscience adds yet another dimension to this question. Studies on mirror neurons, first discovered in monkeys and later in humans, reveal that parts of our brain activate both when we perform an action and when we watch someone else do it. When we see a person smile or cry, our own neural circuits respond as if we were experiencing it ourselves. This automatic mirroring forms the biological foundation of empathy, the ability to feel what another feels. It explains why emotions spread through crowds, why laughter is contagious, and why we sometimes forget where our thoughts end and others begin. Yet even with empathy and shared culture, the truth remains. No two minds are identical. Our thoughts are shaped by countless factors: upbringing, language, culture, trauma, belief systems, and the environments we inhabit. What feels self-evident to one person might be unthinkable to another. A simple debate about religion, politics, or morality can reveal vast mental landscapes we never knew existed. Realizing this difference can be humbling. It reminds us that understanding others requires more than intellect. It requires listening. Throughout history, thinkers have tried to explain why humans so often converge in thought. The psychologist and philosopher Carl Jung took a more spiritual approach, proposing the idea of the collective unconscious, a reservoir of shared symbols and archetypes that shape human imagination across cultures. Though modern science treats Jung's theory cautiously, it remains a poetic reminder that perhaps there is something deep and universal connecting our inner worlds, an ancient mental rhythm that beats beneath individual difference. So does anybody think like you? The answer is both yes and no. Psychology shows that we are wired to assume similarity, to see our reflection in others. This helps us bond, empathize, and live together. But it also blinds us to the incredible diversity of human minds. In the end, maybe the question isn't whether anyone thinks like you, but whether you're willing to imagine how they think. Because that's where real understanding begins. Not in sameness, but in the courage to explore difference.